Hello and welcome to our special Nuke 8 live event from London Leicester Square. We are currently broadcasting from the Vue Leicester Square. I've just got to jump back a slide. Just to say hello to you. So, namaste, konnichiwa, ni hao, hello, salute, hola, aloha. So, we are, as I said, we are broadcasting live from London. There's currently a royal premiere happening on the square tonight, Leicester Square. But we've got something more important and more exciting to share with you, which is Nuke 8. So we've got a jam-packed session this evening. I'm just going to introduce you to a few of our guest speakers. In fact, all of our guest speakers. So, at the end there, Stephan Fleet, Encore Hollywood. Hello, Stephan. Russell Dodgson, Framestore. Hi, Russell. Mike Maloney from Digital Domain. Hi, Mike. Hugo Guerra from The Mill. Hugo. And Paul Simpson from Realise Studios. Also, not forgetting the one, the only, Mr. Jon Wadelton, Nuke Product Manager, who is going to kick off the evening, as you can see. Way.
Thanks, Bex.
Okay, so we've got a lot of people joining us from outside of the studio here in London. If you want to get in touch with us, please use hashtag Nuke8, Nuke8 Live on all the social forums. We also have a chat space at the bottom of the Ustream stream that you will see. I'm going to hand you to Lucy, who's going to introduce you to the human beings who are going to be answering the questions tonight. So over to Lucy Cooper, Head of Marketing.
Good evening, everybody here in Soho, or I guess it's not quite Soho, but nearly. And obviously, everybody that's joining us online. It's amazing. We already have people online from lots and lots of different countries around the world. So I just want to introduce you to, as Beck said, some of the humans that are going to be interacting with you if you're talking to us online. So we're going to pan around and have a quick wave to the team. So we've got Savag, give us a wave. We've got Veal and Frank and Rachel and another Rachel and Sean and Juan, who can talk to you in Spanish, and the lovely Liz down here. So, as Beck said, please use the hashtag Nuke8Live to communicate with us on Twitter or via the chat boxes. If you have a technical question, there's a specific tab that you can use to ask it, and that will go straight to one of the developers here. So we'll hopefully answer lots of your questions and also save some of them up for the Q&A here. As well as this team, we also have lots of people in the room from the Foundry. So we've got John Stark, who heads up the research team. We've got the Hero product manager, as well as lots of other people from the Nuke and Hero teams. So ask us whatever you like, and we'll do our best. And you might get on the ticker tape, which is going along the screen now. Okay, back over to Bex. Let's get going.
Okay, let's get going. So first up, we have Jon Wadelton, Nuke Product Manager. He is going to show you all that's new in Nuke. Over to you, Jon.
All right. Thank you very much, Bex. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone in Vue London. Hello, everyone out there on the interwebs. It's really great to be here to talk about our new release, Nuke 8. So I'm going to really give you a pretty quick whirlwind tour of all the features from the point of view kind of the Foundry. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because the artists in the front row have got way cooler stuff to show and way cooler things to demonstrate than I have. But I'm going to really quickly whirl through the kind of the things that we think from the Foundry. So there was three main areas for this release. One was creative control, so more creative control in your bread and butter kind of compositing tools. The second thing was cutting edge tools. So we always do really cool things from the research department in-house at the Foundry, and also stuff like deep compositing. So, cutting edge innovative compositing tools. And the third thing, which is always really important, is performance, pipeline, and upgrading libraries and all that sort of stuff, so it's going to fit into your facility pipeline. So let's start with the first thing, the the creative controls. So let's look at the video. So one of the things we worked on a lot for this release was updating the color tools in Nuke 8. So one of the things we've got there is waveform scopes and vector field vector scope and histograms there, so to help you analyze your color much better than you could before. So if you're familiar with Hero, they're the same ones. We also have this thing called the pixel analyzer scope. So if you ever used Shake before, you're probably familiar with this as well. It allows us to analyze the pixels, get the minimum max values and so on, and be able to use those in your color correction. So here we're analyzing the everything inside the box. And now we're going to say use the minimum black point to drag to our black point to balance our grade, for instance. We also have a new UI for doing color correction as well. So we've got these in-panel color wheels, which are more artistically friendly, much more creative control to be able to sort of nudge things around. And you kind of have a virtual slider effect there as well. One thing which I don't show in this video, but you can see right at the bottom, was we have this other option called mix luminance. So it's like maintaining luminance. So you can mix back or keep the luminance while you're color correcting. We have that on several color correct tools. Another thing that we've done in this release is we've updated our match grade tool as well. So at the moment, I'm kind of doing a manual grade, but maybe you want to try and do this automatically. So there's a new tool in Nuke 8, or match grade, and we use the kind of research that we did on Ocular kind of color matching stuff and roll that into this release to really make a great update to that furnace tool. So what it can do is it can analyze two images and create a LUT that goes from one to the other. So in this example here, we're setting some keyframes just to get the full gamut of color, and then we're going to analyze that sequence, and then it will come up with a LUT that will convert from one to another. And what we can also do with that LUT is then export that out and either use it in some other package or use it directly inside Nuke. So we've created an open file transform there. So you could use this to apply a look from one plate to another, for instance. More creative controls. We have a wireframe shader there, so great for doing breakdowns or doing some kind of motion graphics-y or stylized effect like we have there on the gun. Lots of different options for modulating and controlling the way that the wireframe shader is drawn. We have a brand new text node in Nuke 8 as well. So this has been a long time coming. It's got really cutting-edge features like typing in the viewer. Yes! Being able to select text by dragging the mouse over the text in the viewer. And you can do other really cool things as well, which stuff like tracking and be able to do individual character coning, be able to animate. There's a font browser over there if you look on the right-hand side, so you can actually see all the fonts that you're about to use rather than picking the file. We can also do actually individual character animations. So you can see here we're just scaling some of them, and we might do a bit of rotation as well. And all of this is keyframeable, editable in the dope sheet as well, and the curve editor. So a really big update to the text tool. There's also a drop shadow tool that we've added to Nuke 8 as well to make it easy to do drop shadows. Retiming is really powerful in Nuke with nodes like time clip and retime and append clip and so on. But in the past, you've been shooting in the dark to see where things have gone. In Nuke 8, you can really visualize where things are being retimed when you retime them. So in this example here, we've got stacks of retiming going on where time clips are moving things around in time. We've got a color correction that is keying the visibility of the text up there, and we're retiming that, but we can see that as we move the keys around, the viewer is in the same positions as the keys. So in previous releases, they would be back at their original locations. So it's a really intuitive and powerful way to see where your keys are and where they're being moved, even after they've gone through time offsets and append clips and whatever else. So you can see here we're moving one layer of the animation, and then we can also move the entire layer in one movement. This isn't really compositing, but this is really exciting for learning Nuke. We have in-context help now. So if I click on that help button, if I want to learn some more about time clip, it goes straight to the online help. So we've made all the help HTML now rather than one big PDF. And we've cross-referenced all the videos that we've got scattered over Vimeo and on our website and so on. And we put those all together so that you can easily see them and learn about Nuke. So that's kind of on the creative control. So now I want to talk about the next bit, which is the more cutting-edge research-based tools or other kind of 3D tools. So let's talk about first the camera tracker. So we've done a brand new version of the camera tracker node in this release. So one of the features of this new camera tracker is being able to solve stills as well as sequences. So in this example here, we've shot a bunch of stills around the set between in off time and shooting. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put a few kind of helper tracks there to help the camera tracker solve this. And once we've done that, we can run the camera tracker on that, and what it will do is solve all of those cameras for each one of those individual stills. And then what can we do with that? Well, we can run that through, for instance, the point cloud generator and start to build up a point cloud. And this is kind of like having a cheap LiDAR scan, if you like. We're starting to build reference geometry from stills. Another feature is solving from survey information. So you see that camera move that we had there, very little parallax, very difficult to solve with the camera tracker. In this version, where we can match points in our set survey information to the 2D plate, and that will assist the camera tracker to solve that shot. And you should see now, if we're looking through the camera, that we have the reference geometry looking through the camera. So here we are with all of that sort of information gathered together. We could write that out now as an Alembic file, and our modeler can do our set extension for that particular shot. Here's another example of the wireframe shader. Before I showed the wireframe shader as a node, there's also the option now on every bit of geometry to render in wireframe mode. So here you can see we've rendered out the model. Great to see that our camera track is solid and sticking correctly. Also in the 3D environment, we have a thing now called viewer capture. If you're familiar with Maya, it's also known as Playblast. What we can do is capture the 3D screen and then be able to see that in our flipbook in real time. And mind you, it doesn't have to be the 3D scene as well. It can be anything on screen. So it could be roto handles, it could be a wipe, it could be anything like that, can now be captured and written out to a file. The model builds a big update to that tool as well. We can now create UVs for models inside the model builder. So you can see there we've unwrapped that rubbish bin there, and now we've got UVs to help us texture the object. There's other stuff to do with texturing as well. Apply material normally applies to every single bit of geometry. So you'll see in a minute, if we put a checkerboard on apply material, now we have checkerboards everywhere, right? Well, we don't want to do that in this case. We want to apply to one object. So there's a filter now in apply material. So if we look at our filter, we have the list of objects that are coming out of the model builder. These could also be names that are in the Alembic file, and then we can select individual objects and only apply them, the material, to each one of those individual objects in the geometry stream. We can also edit geometry now in Nuke 8. So there's a node called Edit Geo, which can procedurally move geometry around. So this is really great if you've got some problem with your projection or some problem with some part of your 3D model and you need to slightly adjust it. Instead of round tripping to 3D and getting, going and opening it up and reading and writing it out to a file, you can now adjust that directly inside Nuke. And if I enable and disable that, you can see they're procedural as well. So they're just doing that on the fly. Particle simulation, caching. So particle simulations can get quite heavy. We now have a way of caching that out to disk. So once you're happy with the simulation, you can write out that particle system to disk. Your comp will be less heavy. You can interact with the rest of it. And it's also really good if you're rendering on the farm and you want to commit. Scanline Renderer now has deep data support as well. So here we have a snow field rendered out using the particle system, using the Scanline Renderer, and now we can integrate that directly into this scene. These are some deep robots from PR Man that we've integrated the deep information into. No holdouts required. So that's very exciting as well. And one more thing here we've got is a thing called full frame mode. So normally when you zoomed in on Nuke, it automatically clips and skips lines for the fastest possible rendering. But if you push that button up there now, it won't do that. It'll always render everything. And what that means is when you press play, real-time playback, I can zoom and pan around without it breaking cache and recalculating stuff. So a good time saver if you're doing paint or rotor or something like that, and you need to check different parts of the image. So that was a bit on the second part, which was the advanced compositing tools. The third and the final part that I want to talk about is updates to the technology and the pipeline and performance, those sort of things. This is all very important, as well as all the new fancy kind of features. So let's talk about that. So we've upgraded our EXR libraries to the latest version, EXR 2.0, for both deep and for 2D. And what does that give you for 2D? Well, it's this thing called multipart, and multipart allows you to put AOVs into separate parts of the EXR file. And what that means is that reading a single AOV is just as fast as reading it from a single file. So it's really great for the workflow when you're using multi-channel EXRs, and we have support for that. We also have options for rendering the different versions of the multipart out. We have a new version of the Alembic library as well, 1.5, and that has also got increased performance as well. So there's this new thing called Ogawa, which is a backend for Alembic. We can write out both the Ogawa format and the backwards compatible HDF5 format. For filtering, increasingly, you're capturing on 5K and 6K kind of things, and you need to maybe an output format that's like 2K, so you're resizing images down a lot. We have 3 new filters to help with resizing. They're the lane cost, 4 and 6, and the sync filter. So there's 3 because they increase in sharpness. So the lane cost 4 is the softest one, and then 6 is a bit sharper, and you should see the edges of the gun getting a slightly sharper there. And if we go to the sync, that's the sharpest of all. So you can choose, as a artist, you can choose how soft or how sharp you want your filtering to be when you're downscaling images. And finally, we have a thing called Import Nuke, and this has been asked for years by different people. What it is basically being able to import the Nuke environment into an external Python shell. So here we have Apple standard Python 2.7, and we've imported in the Nuke module, typing in a bit of codes, and we're basically going to do a transcode at the Python command prompt. And this could be any Python 2.7, so I believe Maya 2014 is on 2.7 as well, so you could actually import Nuke straight into Maya. So I've got a few more things which are on slides because I couldn't work out how to do a video of these, but it's very important for the pipeline and for facilities in general as well, is updates to libraries and so on. So we've updated to Qt 4.8 and Python 2.7. So those of you that have upgraded to Maya 2014 across your facilities, this matches with all of that, so we're all in the same ballpark there. The same thing with operating support, we kind of try and match that as well. For developers, we have this thing called tiled render API or planar rendering. And what that really means is it makes it much easier for a developer to write a tile-based plugin with reduced memory and increased speed. And internally in Nuke, we actually rewrote our OFX, our Blink support, and the EXR tiled reading using this API to make it faster with lower memory. And a couple of other things we've got here, which are the Blink framework. So those of you who are not familiar with what Blink is something that we added in Nuke 7. It's our CPU, GPU framework, allows us to write the code once and automatically run on both CPU and GPU. So Nuke 7, that was something that was internal to the Foundry. And Nuke 8, we're now giving this out to you guys to use. So if you want to write a C++ plugin using this framework, you can. So that's Blink NDK. And if you're a TD, you can actually use the Blink script node, which is the equivalent of, I like to think of it as the expression node on steroids. It's like a shader language, scripting language that you can use directly inside Nuke. So I'm actually going to show you some of that. I'm going to do a quick live demo, and then I'm going to go on to these guys. And I'll show you a bit of that Blink script. And I think it's sort of appropriate that I do the really geeky part, because the artists are going to do the really cool part. So I'll do the geeky codey part, and those guys will show you the cool thing. So, I've got... I was actually going to do this with Arnold, but I decided to sort of change this at the last moment and actually use this image instead. I don't know if Bex will appreciate this, but so there we go. So what is the Blink script node? So let me just drop down a Chronos node and show you. So Chronos is our optical flow-based retiming. And you can see up there in the Chronos node up in the corner, it says it's detected in this machine that I've got a Quadro K6000, and then it's got that checkbox, use GPU if available. So the important thing about the framework is we write it once, it runs on the CPU and the GPU, and if I don't have a GPU, it just runs on the CPU, no errors or anything like that. And one thing we did a lot of work on this year as well with the framework is the thing that we call same. We did a lot of work to make sure that the results are exactly the same. So this is including retiming. So retiming results are exactly the same on the CPU and the GPU, and even exactly the same on different runs of CPUs, because in the past they could be potentially different. Okay, so that's our retiming node. Oh, one other thing. In Nuke 7, the GPU modes were only available in Nuke X. We've now given that to everyone, so that's available in Nuke as well. Right, so Chronos node, let's drop that down. But let's just drop down a Blink script node and see what that looks like, just to compare. So I'm going to hook that up. I'm going to hook that up to poor Bex and have a look at that, what that's done. Oh my God. It's like she's been exterminated by a Dalek or something. She's like gone inverted. So those of you that are not from England will not understand that at all. So what... So what has that done? So first of all, if we look at the Blink script, the default one just doesn't invert as an example. And what it's got on here is that same checkbox, use GPU if available. So all I have to do is check that on or off, and it uses the GPU or it uses the CPU. I happen to have a control here, which is just controlling the amount of multiply. If I was a developer that I want to change this, it's really easy. I can go over here and I can view the source code basically to the Blink script, and I can start modifying it. So I'm going to change this to add instead of multiply. So I'm going to change this to add. And then I'm going to change the codes here. This is what I'm talking about. This is the geeky part, but it's because I'm the developer, so I'm allowed to do the geeky part. I'm going to change this to add. And you remember on the kernel parameters before it said multiply? If I click on recompile now, and I go to kernel parameters, it now says add. So now we're basically doing a lift. So we've basically made this new version, a new node that will now run on the CPU and the GPU just by typing stuff directly in there. So now that we've got our really advanced add node, we might want to publish this and send this out as a gizmo to everyone in the facility. Very advanced. So what I can do is click this funnily named publish button to make a gizmo out of that. So if we look at that, you can see all the stuff with the source code and all that other stuff is completely hidden away. And now what we have is the slider to do our add. And now we can send that off, put that in a shared location, and anyone can use that node. No compilation or anything like that. It's just text. So let me show you some other things. How do you learn this stuff? That's another thing. Like, how do you learn about Blink? Let me show you. This is a good excuse to show the online help as well. So click on the online help button. Up comes the reference guide for the Blink script. And then we have all this information here. We can go to the example Nuke scripts. And this is a cool new thing about the new help, is if I pick one of those example Nuke scripts for Blink, let's look at maybe the flare generator. If I click on that, it basically pops in the code for the flare generator directly inside Nuke. So now I can look at the flare source code and start messing with it. I don't know where my handles are. There we go. So now I've just generated a flare inside here, and I can start messing with stuff there. So there's lots of examples in the help, and really easy to be able to see any example and get the Nuke script for that in there. So let's look at a few more examples. So this is just some things that some of the guys have knocked up. I think it was Chris Hallam did most of these. Chris, are you in here? Oh, your moment of glory is completely gone. So I've got some examples here just doing posterize. So the stamp kind of shader thing. These are things that aren't in Nuke right now, but you can easily, some TD could easily knock these up and use them in their facility. And of course, it runs on the CPU and the GPU. And one last thing was a toon shader, because she kind of looks like she's at Disneyland there, so we can make her into a kind of thing. All right, so those were really kind of simple Blink script examples. Chris Hallam, who isn't here, but he did this wonderful example, has hooked up a bunch of Blink script nodes here together to create actually an entire particle system. So this isn't using Nuke's particle system at all. It's just Blink script nodes hooked up together to do the animation and do all of the stuff that you would do to do a particle simulation. So let me look at the output of this. Basically looks something like this. And all of the lighting, all of the animation, all of this stuff is basically just Blink script nodes hooked up together and whatever. So, and I could just send this to you in an email, and that would just work straight away. No compilation, nothing like that. Cool. All right, so that's really exciting, the Blink script node, and nerdy, but the artist will show you some other cool things. So I'm going to go back into the slides now and talk about a few more things before I wrap up. Let's go back onto this. So I'm just going to kind of recap what we talked about. We talked about the creative controls, like lots of stuff with color corrects and so on. We talked about cutting edge compositing, stuff like Deep and new camera tracker. And we also talked about the technical side and the pipeline updates and the library updates and performance and so on. So that's kind of Nuke 8, basically. I want to say a few more things before we go over to the artists who are going to show you really how it is used in action as opposed to my kind of contrived stuff, which is another announcement we'd like to make, which is a new version of Hero, which will be out very, very soon in conjunction with Nuke 8. So it's Hero 1.8. So those of you not familiar with Hero is our review, conform, and collaborative tool. It allows you to play back and edit and so on sequences. So there's a few features there I just want to highlight. New QuickTime color handling controls. Everybody knows about gamma shifts and stuff with QuickTime. We've done lots of work to fix these problems. And this is also a Nuke 8, so we're compatible across Nuke and Hero. There's new editing for audio controls, and there's stereo controls as well for audio. There's custom image readers, so if you want to add a custom image reader, you can to Hero now. And there's a lot of work on the playback performance and enhanced script loading performance as well. Okay, I have to do a few more things, and then I'll pass it over to the artist. I just want to talk about our sponsors. Thank you very much to Dell and NVIDIA for supplying the boxes that we've got under there. Really fantastic. It's a super fast machine. I was playing around with it earlier, and it was just smashing through everything. And I also want to thank the guys here, the Mill and Artifacts and University of York, for supplying all the footage in my demo. So that's about it for me. Thank you very much for listening, and I think we're going to go over to the artists now, who are really going to show you in detail how these tools can be used in production.
Thank you, Jon. You are in so much trouble. It's the first time I saw that. And you can guess, yeah, I was in Disney. It was Seagraph. So thank you. So we do have fun, even though we work very, very hard. So Lucy, it just exploded here.
Yep, there's lots going on. We've got people online from all over the world. So it's very early morning in New Zealand. Hello, everyone in New Zealand. We've got people on from the States, Mexico, Brazil, India, South Africa, France, Germany, all over Europe. Where else? Vietnam and South Korea. So hello to all of you. If your country was not mentioned just then, make sure and tell us in the chat box where you're from, because we'd love to know. Lots of activity going on here, lots of questions. A few people asking about the audio levels. We have increased these as much as we can. So please just turn your volume up, otherwise we're going to ruin the whole thing. But apparently it looks good and sounds good, so that's great.
Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. So next up, just checking Russell is ready. He totally is. So next up, we have Russell Dodgson, head of Nuke worldwide over at Framestore. He's going to be showing how they use Nuke in commercials over there. So over to you, Russ.
Hello. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, I'm Russell. I'm the worldwide head of Nuke for Framestore Commercials Division. We changed it from global to worldwide because getting through customs and saying global head of Nuke is just like cavity search straight away, and it's not good. So anyway, big it up for Jon Wadelton. Give him a round of applause. Come on, let's have it. So Jon looks really young, but he's actually well old. And if you don't know what he was doing in 1986, he was in Highlander. Who knew? That one's for Bex, I just got him back. Okay, right. So, so I'm kind of responsible for how we deploy Nuke cross-site between LA, New York, and London. I'm also a VFX supervisor, and I work locally in London sort of 80% of the year. And also, I just want to mention, because I hadn't put it in my sort of presentation before, and that is that we also run a full Hero editorial pipeline, which I also currently sort of preside over, and Hero is really sort of managing to make a huge difference to the way that our editorial structure works. So I always sort of describe commercials as the Wild West of VFX because, it's different every week. Every month, every week, it's completely different. You never know what you're going to get. So I'm just going to go through a few examples of how we've used Nuke over the years, because I've been there for 4 years and kind of bought Nuke. That's a lie. It makes me sound way more important than I am. I turned up at Framestore when they wanted to start using Nuke, and luckily it's all timed out when somehow I've got a job title way bigger than I should have. So anyway, a few examples of how we use Nuke. And we started off with stuff like this. So Nuke was sort of seen as, in commercials, as the way of doing all animated CGI work. This is from Harry Potter, Tale of the Three Brothers. And beautiful piece of work. Only time I've ever seen a piece of work actually look like the concept art, which is the best the work ever looks. So we spent a lot of time working on that. And, really heavy CG. Nuke was really the only tool we could use at that point in time to deliver something like this. Next up is an example of what we moved on to, which is sort of 30-second, how do I describe it? A kind of standard 30-second long integrating CG into a live action sort of scene. So I'm just going to show you a little clip. It's got a bit of sound, hopefully. This is for Crunchy Nut Cornflakes. always advertise cereal with a dinosaur. It's a win-win. I can't remember what's next, so I'm just going to press the button. Okay, so this is where we ended up. This is the full gamut of commercials work, kind of loads of 2D set extension, loads of reprojecting sort of scenes and building them up, loads of straight 2D work. Basically what Nuke is designed for and has been used for in film forever, but it took people ages in commercials to cotton on to the fact that that's what it's good for and not just putting CG together. Then, an inspiring image, if ever I saw one, but kind of interesting. So our digital imaging department, which we have at Framestore, who kind of do sort of 4K, 6K, 8K, 10K, I'm not going to make it bigger because that's a lie, they do this kind of print imagery. And an interesting challenge they apply Nuke to is that they have multiple sort of products, like multiple phones with loads of different colorways, as they call them, and loads of different designs, and they need a way of wrangling all of those different sort of items or different assets through one Nuke stream. So which is why they use Nuke, because they use the kind of the procedural inline sort of nature of it to be able to pipe a load of different variety into that of these, and just with switch nodes and little expressions kind of pump through all of this work whilst basically doing one comp. So it's kind of an interesting application. And then another interesting thing that has also happened is we've started doing 3-minute animated kind of shorts for McLaren, the Formula One people, and they play it before the Grand Prix, so kind of to make their image a bit sort of more friendly. I didn't think they were particularly nasty, but I don't know, so I'll show you a clip from that.
Hey, good to see you, man. You're looking good.
Don't get me wrong, off the track, he was a gentle soul.
You want me to sign those babies?
But when he got behind the wheel, that was quite a different story.
So we use Nuke to comp all of that, and we use the particle system a lot to kind of get ourselves out of a lot of sort of tricky fixes and things we can't do. Obviously, the smoke in that was done in Houdini. But we use Nuke for every shot in it. So this... I was saying earlier that I think there should be some kind of like shortcut for VFX presentations in Keynote where you just press a button and it prints that out, because every presentation has that in it. But that is basically what we're always facing. And, we like the biggest idea. The biggest idea is good. It's the other two bits that suck. But it's kind of how we're sort of, presented with work. So I just want to talk a little bit about how we react to that. So currently, trying to rely less on in-house software development, because R&D is an expensive thing, and it's very hard to keep up to date with it in a commercial environment. So what we're looking for is off-the-shelf solutions that hit that 80% rule. So it's going to do 80% of what we need, 80% of the time. A bit like the furnace documentation says. So it allows us, to remember, 80 is a broad statement as well. So remember that your artists are the big asset. And that really is important, because what we need to do is, if we're not doing software development, we need to have tools that are open enough to allow our artists to develop enough so that on a more micro level, whichever one's smaller, they can make small pipelines and small tools that can make the jobs flow easier and increase productivity, but without having to do the big software development role. So it's kind of empowering our artists to do more. And then what we do is we get those artists and we get those off-the-shelf solutions, and we try and wrap them all up in a nice flexible pipeline, which is ideally off-the-shelf as well. And, we're on a winner. And we're good with sharing with other facilities as well. So what we're looking for when we pick tools, 2 important things. What can it do now? So I'm going to read a little list, because I can't remember. What is the feature set of the tool, and how does it compare with other tools that are out there? Does it have a wide user base that we can hire from, and are they talented? Can it make our lives faster or more productive? And does it play well with our other core tools? So that's kind of looking at what it does now. And slightly the more hunch-based thing, and the most important thing, is what it can potentially do, because potential is really the kind of the key. So we're looking at how much a bit of software improves over time, what the roadmap is like, and how responsive the developers are, and most importantly, how large and enthusiastic the community behind the software is, so the user community. Because you normally find that with a really active user community that's really tight and very, very proactive, it leads to more proactive development. So that's really important. And then the other thing is how open the tool is, so that we want to know that a tool is open enough that if it's off the shelf hitting the 80% rule, then we can do the other 20% ourselves using the openness of the tool, and then we get everything that we need out of it. Which leads us on to Nuke 8. Now, Nuke has steadily with a few kind of roto-paint bounces, improved over time, and sort of steadily progressed and got better and better and better. And every time there's a release, something comes out that either improves the way we work or opens up to a new way of working, which I always find really exciting. So it's good to be here because Nuke 8 is a really sort of significant release, which I find is quite a weird sentence. It's something that, I think there's some really great tools in here. So if we go these are just a few of the great features that are in there. Particle cache, EXR2, and match grade. Now I'm going to go over these really quick because the meat of the presentation is about something else. But particle cache, which I like to think of as that, more versions, fewer tiers. So last year we did the Bond titles for Skyfall, and we did all of this kind of rising paper effect. Obviously we shot loads of burning elements, but that was all done and laid out and rendered through Nuke's particle system. Now we got to a pretty good place with the way that we wanted the particle to move fairly fast, but they wanted to change the camera move every 5 minutes. And when you're doing that, and you're constantly recaching and resimming and caching and resimming, not only did it make the really nice lad who works for me want to kill himself, but I feel bad, man. He didn't. It's okay. He's fine, he's happy. Just got married. Still holds a scar, emotionally and physically. If we can cache those sims out to disk, then we're in a much stronger place because we can cache it out to disk, get our simulation right, and then we can just roll version after version and start getting more creative with the particle system. So it's a really, really strong, great feature. So number 2, EXR2. That's funny. More Bond. So we do a lot of sort of super heavy all CGI work. So like a lot of this is really CGI, strong. We do a lot of EXR sequences, really sort of loads of multi-channel passes, and as resolutions get bigger and bigger and bigger, we want to sort of have a solution where, I need to go back a little bit. The thing that I really want to do at Framestore is I want us to be in a position where we have a fully linear EXR workflow. Now, we want to use EXRs, but also we want them to be fast. And the new EXR development, as Jon was talking about earlier, is going to put us in a place where we can do that. There's a really good thing, little secret with Judi Dench there over a grave, tells you what happened to her in the film. Yeah? Super clever. Not my idea. But it was clever. It can't be my idea. It's weird giving a presentation to a room full of people cleverer than me. Just give up, Russ. So, yeah. Bond, EXR2, going to be good, make stuff faster. The general principle is if I have a really, really stacked EXR full of layers, I can access one or any of them in the same rate, at the same speed as accessing any other one of them. It's not basically unpacking the entire EXR just to show me the RGB channel, which means that you can get more invested in putting out your AOVs without worrying too much about the I/O hit and the artist speed. So we like it. Match grade, I'm not going to say anything other than pretty much that. And that is that I spend a lot of time at work drawing really ridiculously complicated colour workflow diagrams about how we get good colour grades to client because they've done it in a weird way. Did we get the LUTs off the DIT? Did we not? Match grade will hopefully turn that into like a really nice, plates come in, offline comes in. Client's been seeing the offline, he's comfortable with that. Match the grade to the two of them. That's what he sees until he comes in for his final grade. I'm hoping it gets that way. So it looks like a really, really good tool. And now this is sort of the meat of the presentation. It's the main part. Now, there's been some huge updates to the camera tracker. Just having a look at some of the UI stuff here. A lot of small things in here, but for example, film back presets with a guy who ever filled this out and put all them in, spent a lot. Normally I just search online, film back for Alexa, and it comes up eventually. That's mental. Then update track, which is great because it allows you to extend auto tracks or add in reference frame tracks. Manual tracking, user tracking, with the ability to add in survey points, which is the S column. And then you can put in XYZ position data for kind of LiDAR scans, stuff like that. Which is nice. I'm going to show you something kind of cool with that in a bit. And then also we can import tracks and export tracks, which is a nice feature. Not to be confused with import tracker and export tracker, very different. And also size constraints or scale constraints. So you can scale your scene based on sort of real world known values, which is hyper useful. And then this is the thing that gets me really pumped in a slightly weird way. And it's the still solver and how it kind of relates to sort of visual effects supervising. So I did a shoot not very long ago, kind of in a weird sort of town in Brazil. And we got out there 2 weeks early, did the tech recce straight away. And something that wasn't meant to be CG became CG very quickly. It was a big glowing boat rolling down a street in a parade at night with a big crowd in front of it. And the director wanted to know how big it could be and what could we do and blah, 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 blah. So basically, while we're on the tech recce, director wanders off after saying, I think it's going to be here, dude. Maybe. And then he kind of wanders off and talks to the DOP. I go, right, walk around, snap images everywhere I can, with a degree of logic, understanding how this kind of thing works. And then when I get back to the hotel, because I'm in the middle of nowhere and I can't just go out and party, I'm not in Rio, Copacabana would have been better. It's better than the still solver. Yeah, so basically I solve all those stills, can create an environment, and I'm very quickly doing previs based off those stills with a model of our set, which I can then put a boat in and work with the director to work out how big it needs to be. So just going through that, step one is that. Take a lot of pictures, take them wisely. So this is a kind of a test location that I've just kind of been messing around with in the last few days. I use my boxing gym so you can realise that I'm trying to make it look like I'm kind of both a fighter and well-versed in martial arts and ripped, but I haven't been in 6 months. And I got my arse kicked when I went there last. And this is a different method of taking the photographs. So that's kind of more walking through the scene in the same way the director is walking through the scene, taking the stills out, sort of through the path of the shot because it has enough parallax in it for the still solver to work with. This next bit is literally me taking you through how you would do it. So in here you can see the parameters up top. Now you've got in source, you've now got a stills option, and you can set a number of reference frames. Here they've got like 80 stills, we're going to add them all. And then I'm going to pick a film back from my Canon 5D, which is ironically the same as the default, so it's a totally pointless exercise. And then in settings, I'm going to up the number of features because it helps with the still solver, and reduce the separation because that also seems to help. And I'm going to run a track. Nuke is amazing, but not as amazing as that for speed. Dip to black, universal knowledge. So now I'm solving it. There we go. Also, not as quick as this, but the end result of that, about 10 minutes, you've got a tracked and solved environment. So I've got an error, which actually is pretty good for sort of stills of 2K by whatever it is, or 3K. So I've dropped the error down by deleting some errant points there to kind of like a 0.8 or something. And now I've got a really nice point cloud of my whole environment. So nice and quickly, give it a ground plane, and then use the distance constraint here to say, I know that's 1.8 meters, because I guessed. It's a fact. It's a soft fact, but it's a fact. And then now, because I've got a bit of an issue with it, I zoomed in to show you how geeky that looks, and now I've just got to rotate it to line it up a bit better. I don't know why I'm doing that. So then you've got the output options that you can get out of there. So now you can just export a camera as normal, but for some reason this kind of, I feel like it kind of in some way points to the psychology of the operator, in that when you create that, you double click this, you can see how you walked around the room. That's a weird path. But it also shows that everything is really level, it was all shot on a tripod at the same height, and that is the method that has got me to having a very solvable set of stills. So it's kind of figure of 8 method. And then for the brave people out there, or those people that want to put it out into Mari, like probably Scott Metzger, who wants to do some crazy stuff, that is not only a vomiting of lines, but it also shows you, once again, that figure of 8 shape. And, where, for example, when you're a certain distance away from something, it's good to do another arc slightly closer because it helps get you detail. So onto model building, because it's lighter than point cloud and better for doing object tracking. So this is me working at real time here. You see, it's the productivity at Framestore is mental. And if you look at this, you can see why it is like that. That's nuts. When I watch it back, I can't believe it. Nearly modelled, and then I just thought about it, and then it's done. So, really, any errors in that are more the software than me, like that weird line and the crazy tessellated floor. But you can see, lining up with the point cloud, I kind of used the point cloud to help work out where some of it was, but most of it was just done, by eye and guesswork. And then you've kind of got your scene. So now, you've done your tech recce, you've been around with the director, you've kind of gone back to your hotel, you've got a week maybe between if it's a luxury. So in that time, you've knocked this up, and maybe you've used this to then like block out maybe a more technical shot with the director that he needs to work out. You know, maybe he can work out his lensing, maybe he can just work out if he can even fit the object he wants to fit in the object in the room. And, you know, you can send this back straight away, back to London. And your artist, your CG artist, can start working with that. They can start blocking out, laying stuff out. If it was a particle thing, you've got something for particles to start colliding with just for tests. So you've got an asset already that exists. You've got the cameras and you've got the environment. You've got the scale right, and then you've got the geometry. So next up, it's shoot day, and you take a load of HDRs. So this is showing the new full frame caching, which is wicked. So we've got a couple of HDRs there showing off their range. And then them turned into 6-packs. So cubic 6-packs of each one. So then now, using the new camera tracker, we're going to work out where our HDRIs are relative to the scene that we're in. So here, I'm on my original scene, and I've now put, if you can see, the first top 6, I put 6 points in known positions in my world space. So I've given them, worked out the XY coordinates here. I've tracked them over 3 frames each, which seems to be the minimum that you require. And then I've hit on the right at the bottom, there's an update XYZ, which basically solves your survey points. You'll see in a sec there, update XYZ, and that solves your survey points. So now, much like with the old projection solver, which this replaces, you can see how they've lined up nicely and done the job we're looking for. I've taken them over to the camera tracker here, and I've picked a relative image from that 6-pack set of HDRs. And then I've set up a tracker which is solving stills and reference frames again, and then I've copied in my 6 or 7 user points there, and I've adjusted their XY position now relative to where they should be in this image, just like the projection solver. And now when I solve that, it tells me where my camera is. So that's now me solving where my HDRs are in my scene, which I then plug into an axis node, which is driving a projection setup for the 6-pack here. I'd rather it was a 2-pack. There you go. So that's now my 6-pack projector all sorted out and ready and lined up for projecting my HDR texture onto my clearly underdeveloped model. So that's kind of useful. There's another sort of 6-pack in that room, so I think hopefully we'll see that in a sec. Oh, the tension mounts. Can sort of feel it in the air. There it is. So there's the other 6-pack. So now I've solved, say for example, you've got a character that's walking all the way through that scene. You've now got kind of distance-accurate HDRI projection for your lighting team to use. So when they put their objects in, things are casting or bouncing light or bouncing colour from the right distance. So nothing is complete without a relight example. It makes it look like a student project. So this is just pumping, literally look like one of my student projects. So this is just pumping out, I don't even use relighting ever, but pumping out normals and point passes here, and just doing a little relight on the scene, which is very exciting. The power of Nuke 8, people. You can relight a room that doesn't need relighting. There you go, wide shot. Nothing back. And then the manual tracker, which is in no way the ugly sister, because she's fit. And so we did the Galaxy Audrey Hepburn face replacement job, which I can't show anything of. Talking about it could get me killed. And basically, this is the facts session that we took, and we didn't do this knowing about how the still solver works. It had nothing to do with still solver. So it turns out that the distance between the images and the parallax shift is too much for the still solver to handle. But by putting in user tracks, so tracking certain points in her face, that's now still solved all of the positions of where she is. And with a point cloud generator, we now get not the best mesh. She's a bit melty, but a mesh that you could base the beginning of your modeler's geometry working from, or a really, really, really crap face replacement at the back of a shot. You could do that with that. So that, once again, is really, really useful. And knowing more now, we would probably adjust the way that we do something like a fact session if we want to use, it's like the facial reconstruction session where you take a series of pictures all at exactly the same time of an actress or actor. It's not a sexist process. Yeah, there you go. So that's that. So what have we gained? I've lost a bit of self-esteem. You get a model of your set for fast previs and layout, which you can do with the director. You get geometry for object tracking, a solved HDR scene for distance accurate HDR lighting, geometry for projection fixes, and a method of solving multiple shot cameras. So as I said, this is all stuff that you can do with Nuke 8 when you're just in the office, but I think having this kind of tool all wrapped up in one thing when you're doing VFX supervision, it means that when you're on the front line in a commercial and you've got a team that are itching to get going because otherwise they're going to get burnt in that last week, sending this kind of stuff back to them and having it be accurate and to scale and right with all the cameras solved so that they can get stuff into Mario or whatever is an absolutely killer feature. And for me, it's better than using it in the office. It's a bit like when you get a tuna. It's a tenuous link. You catch a tuna once, you take the photographs once, then that tuna is worth like 40 grand by the time it's been turned into cat food and the food that Jon eats. Here's some pictures of my holiday. No, so this is a light rig that we had to really quickly and impromptu, sort of in an impromptu fashion, make on set, and we had to work out the scale and size of that using the Nuke 8 still solver, putting in the boat that we were going to put in, working out the size and the scale and how high the camera was going to be relative to the people so that their heads would be behind it as much as possible. And this is then, I don't know what some of these people are wearing, it's fine though, if that's what they want. And that's basically, we wouldn't have got to that point if we didn't have a nice fluid way of working on set. So rolling back to what I was saying earlier, these are two most important things. So what can it do now and what is it got the potential to do? So for me, Nuke has got the potential with something like this. It already does what I wanted to do now pretty much, with the exception of the text node, but now it's revolutionary. Never letting you go on that. But what it can potentially do is most important. And so in a case like this opens up a new workflow within Nuke. Obviously, there's other tools and other ways of doing things like this, but the fact that it's all bundled into one solution that you're going to take all the way through to delivery is epic. So pick up your copy at the door. Thank you.
Round of applause for Russell. Thank you, Russell. Wonderful as ever. So, next up, we have Stephan Fleet, Creative Director, Encore Hollywood. He'll be showing how they're using Nuke in episodic television. So I'm going to hand it over to Stephan and keep sending us messages. It's still very, very busy up the back there. So, yeah, over to Stephan.
Hey guys, how's it going? I am American. I do know what a Dalek is, thank you very much. And I am going to call it Z-depth, not Z-depth. I'm telling you that right now. We won a few wars that give me the ability to do that. I'm just kidding, I love you guys, I really do. No, but seriously, this is how much I love you guys. As of today, just really quickly, we're Encore. We do post and visual effects. We have 5 facilities. As of yesterday, we have Encore London. And I went there and I met them, and it's awesome people. So we're here. They have really cool signs on their building that we don't have in LA, and I'm a little jealous, actually. I'm a little envious. So television is the name of our game. I'm also a visual effects supervisor. I recently visual effects supervised a vast majority of the series Under the Dome. If you caught that one, the Stephen Spielberg thing. We do television. Television is fast. Fast is the name of the game. We have deliveries. We do about 40 plus shows at Encore throughout all our facilities right now at any one time, from heavy shows to lighter shows, usually heavier shows in this day and age. And we have maybe 2 weeks to 4 days to deliver a heavy shot. That would be, I'd say, a pretty good average. So the question is, why Nuke? And why television? That was the question that was posed to me. When I first got to Encore, it was a 4-person After Effects shop. I was one of the artists. I quickly looked around and said, we need to start using Nuke. And now we have, I think, about 45 artists in LA using Nuke, and they're unbelievable. And that is actually why. We have artists and innovation. These are the 2 things that I want to talk about today. First off, I know my artists, I'm getting emails right now like crazy. They're working really hard right now in LA, so that's one of the keys, is just the talent and the creative people that we have working there. They're amazing. And then the innovative tools that Nuke has kept coming out with, and Nuke 8 is no exception. So we have artists and innovation in the crossroads between the two. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to look back in time. I took a couple of example shots from stuff that we did in Nuke 7, and I brought it into Nuke 8 and sort of did things that would have made it a lot better if we had Nuke 8. So these are like real world examples, and the first example is going to come from a show called Banshee. I don't know if you guys have checked it out, but it's a great show. It's a Cinemax show. I believe season 2 is coming out soon, and it plays on Fridays. And we actually, a lot of the artists at my company just won the Emmy Award for this show, 2013 Emmy for Best Supporting Visual Effects. Here's a clip. Thanks to them. They worked tirelessly on it. Here's a quick clip of it. We replaced a whole bunch of cars in New York City. So this was a wonderful job done by the team, and a lot of coordination with the director and the actor even. And it was a technical thing. They couldn't have cars on that block that they shut off in New York, so they did it all. A lot of cone removal. Here's one of the comps right here that one of the artists did. And when we comped it, it kind of looked like this. By the way, I'm still reeling that you gave away the end to Skyfall. For like, I mean, now I know. Thank you very much. Well, you know, some of us are busy. What can I say? I'm gonna get in so much trouble. Hey, we haven't insulted any nations yet, so that's good. But okay, back to the matter at hand here. So the artist worked, and this was the sort of default Alexa color space that came out of the bag when we worked on it, and they worked tirelessly on this, only to discover, and now in television, color correction can often happen concurrently, or even anachronistically before visual effects sometimes. So we get a color sample, and it looks like this. So they put this heavy chocolate filter on it in CC. And we had to go back and do a lot of work recomping because our grades just didn't sort of fit this. So you probably all know where I'm going with this because you've seen it by now, match grade. But I'm going to show you guys like in depth. Like I took this thing to the test with this shot, and I have to tell you, it was awesome. Here is a video of me using a match grade. I have a QuickTime reference from the colorist, and I have some DPX Alexa footage in log C color space, and I put the match grade in. And since it's the same footage, it's matching the graded source, and for analysis, I did auto-analyze per frame. So it's looking at every frame, and it knows that it's the same footage, so it's doing it. So there you can see right now I'm toggling between the two, and other than a slight vignette that the colorist put in there, I think it's pretty darn good. In fact, here's a side-by-side. You can see the line split down the middle. So this is pretty huge and pretty amazing, because like what was said before with Russell, getting CDLs and LUTs, we have workflows for it. I've tried tirelessly to get scripts going, but it's really hard to get that information. It's almost impossible in TV to get that information. You have to like bribe the dits under the table and stuff like that. And even then, like, you know, you have to listen to lots of long conversations and stories and things about things you don't want to hear. So this looked like amazing. This was great. I was like, okay, so now let me think about like a couple of other things. Number one, I put a QuickTime in there. I was on Windows 8, 64-bit, my home PC, and it worked great. They've mentioned it before, but QuickTimes just like work now. There's no gamma issues. In fact, it kind of worked a little better than QuickTime Player playing it because of the whole 64-bit thing. So no more converting it to some image sequence, just using a QuickTime. I think that's huge. In case you missed it, boom, there it is. I was getting dramatic in my presentation. And then full frame processing, which has already gone over, is something that I just found really helpful while doing this. This is something that I think in the visual effects world, imagine if you have a client looking over your shoulder. Oh, I did this too, just to be dramatic. Boom, in case you missed it. So here's a little clip that's going to play that may feature his personal area a little bit. I noticed that after the fact. But you can see I'm scrubbing through the green stuff, which is the cache stuff, and I'm zooming in and I'm zooming out. I think if a client were looking over my shoulder as an artist, yeah, they're, woo, bad loop point, everybody. I think this is just fantastic for artists and clients, and also just working in general. I found myself turning it on and off depending on what I was doing and sort of the vibe of the shot. So then I said, okay, so now let me expand this to the visual effects workflow for like 20 shots that we were doing for this show or something like that. So I used the match grade with a slightly different functionality. I used the match different clip functionality. So now I'm taking the color that I want from a target, and I'm going to apply it to a different source. It's a different image. So it can't do the same analysis of every frame, but what you can do is you can pick source and target keyframes. And I was very picky, I don't know about it for some reason, so I took a long time picking my keyframes. But you'll see here in a second, I picked my keyframes. It's very easy. You hit the little key things here, source, and then I had my target. Boy, I took a long time deciding on my keyframes. So there you go. You could do more keyframes. I found that I only needed one for each, and I got a really nice grade. The LUT resolution and the iterations are two features that you can play with to up the quality of your 3D LUT. You can see it brought back in some of the yellow in the cabs. I liked it. It's just kind of on a case-by-case basis, I think. So what's great, though, is that we've created a LUT that we can now write out using the match grid. So match grid is a Nuke X thing, but you can read in a LUT as a file transform, OCIO file transform for regular Nuke. So we've created more than just sort of this node that is usable for one thing. We've created a LUT that we can then go and here we go, little video piece. So you can write it, there's a write button, and conveniently you can hit the create button right there, which I found very nice. And you can see in the bottom corner there, I've created this LUT that is going to do the same thing as the match grade, more or less. And I'm switching it between different pieces of footage, and you can see that it's working just fine. So then I said, okay, so now I want to roll this out to my team. So they're very comfortable with the color space of this sequence. How do I do it? Well, it's the classic technique in Nuke. You can rename it to viewer_input, which I do, and the IP button will function, and guess what? It works great, just how I expected. So now what I could do is I could bake this into the creation script for every shot for this show, and then the artist will just have it there. All they have to do is hit the IB button, and they can toggle back and forth between this heavy grade and whatnot. So I thought that was really amazing. Then I took it even a step further. I was like, well, a lot of times clients in TV really want us to do some kind of cool look, like a skip bleach or something like that. So I just found this photo of like a cross-process look, and guess what? It worked great, same process. And I was like, man, so now we don't need to buy these bundles of looks or any of that stuff. Say we're doing like a high-tech monitor fill or something like that. We could create a gizmo, which in fact I did right here. I made a couple looks. I even threw a little vignette in it. Very simple gizmo. You can just see me kind of rolling through different settings in it. I could create this tool for my artist, and when a client comes in, we can say, oh, do you want the blue look? Do you want this? They could even come in and reference a movie and say, oh my God, I just love Skyfall. I want that frame from Skyfall. Can you take that frame and give me that look? And you know what, we can kind of, in a sales pitchy kind of way, say, we'll take that exact frame and turn it into what you want to. So I think that's really cool. I mean, the tool, it's just amazing. I can't speak highly enough about it. I had my doubts. I was highly skeptical, so I really put it through the ringer, and it worked great. And here's sort of a final clip that I rendered out just to show you that it really works. I mean, this is like a really heavy look, and I think it's kind of cool, actually. Completely sort of changes the vibe of the scene. And so then what I did is I said, okay, what if I don't have Nuke X, which you're crazy if you don't have Nuke X, but let's say you don't have Nuke X and you have regular Nuke. And you want to do some color correction in that too, and there's some new ways to do it that are great, some new old ways actually. Here's sort of a side-by-side of the two. And here we go with the new scopes and pixel analyzer that you guys saw. I won't spend too much time on them because you probably all know what they do. If you don't, you'll use the awesome Nuke documentation and learn. But what I did is a very classic colors technique. And one thing that's great at Encore is we're also a big color house. We do a lot of color for television, and we work very closely with our colorist. And these are the tools that a colorist uses. Also, directors of photography will use a waveform. I know when I'm on set, a waveform is sort of a big tool in this day and age to look at exposure of things. So it's a great sort of language, dialect connecting tool. And I think it's great for artists to know this tool. So I did a very classic technique. I took the pixel analyzer, I found my lows and my highs, and I quickly did this waveform CC match. I put in my black point and my white point. I switched to just one channel. So right now you see just the green channel in both, and I just made the waveform a little bit bigger for demonstrative purposes. You can see the awesome, cool color wheels being used right there. Very simple to use. Something I like about them that you might not be able to see right away is that you have the red, green, and blue, but if you look over to the right, it also has sort of like the magenta green and the warm cool and the saturation and all that stuff too. So it's really is quite functional. I'm also using this, I forget the name, but it's the cool like slidey thing now. If you middle click on a number with the mouse and drag left and right, it'll automatically change it. You don't have to like highlight the number to do it anymore. Probably not called the slidey thingy, but it's really cool. Just one of those little things. And you can see that I was able to color match it by going through the 3 channels and just taking that waveform and visually connecting it with the grade. And I did pretty good. I didn't get the sky as close as match grade, but again, very classic technique, and I thought it worked really, really well. I think this is going to be another sort of evolutionary step in really, really tight color. And I don't know about you guys, but in this day and age, all of our clients like kind of want everything to match from like the first version, like the roughest version needs to not bump the director, if you will. So here's just a big zoomed in still showing my handmade match, so to speak. So I was pretty happy. It worked really well. Just one other quick thing that is a functionality of the scopes that I thought was interesting. You can see that I have the full frame button selected down there. So what you're looking at, I'll toggle between the two, is you can actually turn that on and off, and you can either just look at the region, or you can keep it looking at the entire thing, no matter how much you're zoomed in, your entire frame. So let's move on to Under the Dome, the show I supervised. Here's a plate that we shot out in wonderful Wilmington, North Carolina. It was, there were a lot of mosquitoes. Magic hour, not good, East Coast. So we were running out of light, wanted to get out of there. We had to take this environment and we had to completely change it into something devastated. So what I did is, this is not the final. The final actually has some particle effects that our wonderful effects team did at Encore, but I stripped that out for this demonstration just to show you that what this really needs is some depth. It needs some fog, it needs some haze, it really needs to have some feel to it, some texture. So I played around with particles in Nuke 8. Here's the comp, the original artist comp, and I just sort of tacked on top of it. I went in and I just used what little knowledge I have of making particles, and I used the cool new dope sheet to sort of time it out and make this kind of thingy, using, again, a QuickTime that I did not convert of just sort of a stock element of smoke. So I made this little particle ball, and I put it on a bunch of particles, and I was really excited, and it didn't play back so well. I was actually kind of bummed out. I had this weird white issue, probably with the alpha channel happening or the blend mats. So then I noticed, looking through the documentation, that I could go in and I could activate my awesome gaming card, because I am a gamer. I do not have a cool Quadro card, but I have a really, really cool gaming card, the 780 Ti. I play a lot of Battlefield. We all do at work. It's good times. Maybe you'll get to see my awesome rig later on in this presentation. But anyway, I switched it over to the GeForce GTX 780 Ti, which is not, so it's it's an enthusiast grade card, but it worked really, 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 whoa, I zoomed out, look at that. I was getting artsy late at night. So now all of a sudden I'm not having that issue. The particles are playing great. I can tell you just the functionality moving around was fantastic in Nuke and Nuke X. It works across the board. It works with some plugins too, which is great, like the Z defocus. It works in there too. And then if this isn't fast enough, if I need to see it sort of even in realer time, that capture button they were talking about earlier is great. I flipbooked it. You can do Frame Cycler or Hero. I have Hero, and I really like it. So you just hit that little button, hit OK. There it is playing, no problems. You could save it. So this is great to have a conversation. I was thinking, like in hindsight, if I went into the 3D thing and I turned off the grid and the plus and all the other stuff in Nuke, I could actually render this out as some kind of a ghetto pass just to slap on for timing. So there's really, really a lot of functionality and use for this, and it's very quick. I didn't show you the rendering, but it probably only took like a minute or two to render it out. You can also, as was mentioned before, use the particle cache, which I thought was great. Once I got the particles kind of where I want them to be, I wrote out a particle cache file, and you can do padding, which is really cool, so you can give yourself handles on your particles, and then you hit check read from file. It still needs to be plugged into the system, but you check read from file, and like most of the overhead goes away dealing with it. And then I got to what I'm most excited to talk about today, because the artists are probably laughing at me in Encore right now, but I run around like whispering deep into their ears all the time. I really want to bring deep compositing into television. We don't use it that much right now. It's pretty heavy, and we're just working so fast. But I think Nuke 8 is really going to bring deep compositing into our television workflow, and I'll show you what I did. And I just thought it was amazing. So the scanline render can write out to deep now. You can plug it into any node. I plugged it directly into a deep right node. which I thought was great. You can write them out. You can write out deep passes, which is fantastic. And then you can bring them in with a deep read, EXR2, very quick. You can do write to a deep transform, deep to points. You can see all that stuff there. And you can see this is just sort of a loop of me running around and showing you guys all of these particle cloud things. This is the particle deep to points, and it looks great. I put it all on cards. Thinking about it in hindsight, you could do spheres and all kinds of interesting things to kind of break up the lines, but this worked for me. I went in and I took our traditional Z to depth pass and plugged it into, I don't want to get killed, I'm like, no, I plugged it into this copy node and just took our regular beauty pass, and I didn't have a deep pass, so it was kind of, you work with what you get a lot of times. I mean, I used a deep from image, which worked really well, actually. I used a deep crop just to kind of shave the front and the back off of it. I did go to the help, which this is just a close-up of the help thing. What's great is you can change it from documentation source Foundry to like in-house, and we have a lot of custom tools, so you could write your own help. But I have to tell you, the Foundry's like help is extremely helpful right now. All the videos are there, and it was great. So I went in and see at the bottom there, it says step-by-step guide. It really showed me what I was doing. I deep merged the two together, and that's the point cloud of the deep merge. And this is kind of the coolest thing right now. Here now, in depth, you can see me dialing in the fog with all these trees back and forth. So this is so far all particles. It's like particle 3D space scanline render to deep in Nuke. No effects artist, no nothing. Very quick, very responsive. I thought that was really amazing. I did a bit of deep color correcting. It's hard to see here on the screen, but the background I desaturated a little bit. And then I came out with like a million different passes of it. Some I thought were too heavy, some were too light. You know, some like, oh, I need to rotate the smoke this way. I got really picky. I'm looking at it now, and they're all kind of fine, but you know how it is when you're an artist and you get obsessed. And here's the final product. All done in Nuke. So yes, it was great. We had an FX guy do it, but the amount of time and labor it took for him to do it, I think a Nuke artist could have done it. You know, pretty darn good job with this. And you know, you can see the occlusions with the tree stumps and stuff like that. It really feels good, and I think this is going to open up like a whole new way of working. I'm pretty darn excited about it. Let me go. I have some orphans, I call them, some stuff. Still tracking was just gone over in great depth, so I'm going to roll over it very quickly. There's my awesome 3 monitor setup. That's really why I wanted to show you guys these pictures. I'm just going to gloss over things, and then for some reason I have a picture of Blue Boy on my wall from Gainsborough. So I took like 9 pictures. I didn't use a tripod. I didn't even set the white balance because I forgot to. And I did the same thing. For some reason, I went in and I set it to 5D Mark 2 and 3, even though I didn't need to because it's the default. And I also tried out manual tracking. The thing I liked about manual tracking is it felt very similar to like a Synthesize workflow, which is a program that I like to track with, because I could use the regular tracker node, and I could sort of like lock it to the center and just do a very quick track. And when I did the manual track, I imported the trackers into Camera Tracker from the tracker to the Camera Tracker. They're all there. I didn't do any auto tracking. I just hit solve. I did put in the info because I knew the focal length of the camera and stuff. And again, I switched it to 5D Mark. I don't know why it's going to happen. But anyway, we did that, and it came out with a pretty decent point cloud for having like 20 trackers or something like that. And then I did UV mapping. That's kind of a new cool thing here. I'm not that good at 3D. Like, I'm definitely not a CG guy. But I found this to be really easily. I did a very quick model build too. And I took that leftmost monitor, and all you do is you kind of right-click on it, and you say unwrap UVs, and you get your UV thing like that. I kind of grabbed the points and sort of nudged it to roughly like the shape of a monitor. It took about 3 minutes, and then using that, I went in and I painted this sort of thing. I did not only the monitor fill, but I did the frame too, just like let's say you had to replace the entire monitor. And you plug that right back in, and thanks to the UV mapping, you can see that I put it right over the thing. That's the cow from under the dome. That's like our flagship shot from under the dome. I had to like work it in somehow. We split a cow. The dome comes and like splits the cow in half. And because it's network television, like we had to be creative with the innards. They're interestingly abstract. But it's really cool. I mean, look, the frame is there, and I did a little bit of like a roto thing to separate the frame so I could change the luminance of it, and it's in every image and every angle. So, I think this is like some meat and potatoes work in television monitor stuff, and this is gonna make it much faster. Once again, I was able to output deep right from the scanline render thanks to Model Builder. So there's my deep point cloud. I thought it looked pretty darn good. I did a deep color correct, so you can see that I'm changing the color in depth from warm to cool on the image. I too have my student project, I think, coming up. I did just because extras, right? I did just because I could, right? Just to join the club, because I wouldn't be cool, man, if I didn't relight it. I too took, for no reason whatsoever, this scene and relit it. Right? Everybody's like, oh my God, it's time to do a presentation. I know what I'm going to do. Relight. Yeah. Yeah. Woo. I remember when I tried to convince the 3D guys at my company to do the relight, and they were just like, okay, but we could just move the light for you. I'm like, no, give me these 14 passes. And then the other thing I did that I thought was really cool was the defocus, which, sorry I said defocus, but you can see GeForce GTX 780 Ti right there, NVIDIA CUDA core enabled, very snappy because I've got the model builder. I'm able to control the depth of field. This actually could be something I think quite functional for changing sort of like a focal length look in a still or in an image. And then what else? Oh, blink script. So this is totally an orphan. I don't have a cool example like he had earlier from this, but I did want to talk about it because I think it's going to be huge for television. I think it's going to open up just sort of this is just one of the standard things that came out of the Nuke help. It's just kind of a bubble thing. I'm just really excited about it. It's a little bit above me, C++. I'm okay in Python, but we do have some C++ programmers at my work, and I think there's a job opening now for someone to come in and seriously take this tool and use it to make sort of the sky's the limit. Off the top of my head, we do a television show called The Tomorrow People, and people are what we call zooping in and out. They appear and they disappear, and we do kind of like a diffractive, distortive thing all the time. We could create a tool with this just to do it instead of the complex node chain that we use right now, for example. So that is what I have for you guys today. And we are Encore, and we do television, and Nuke is awesome.
Thanks, Stephan. Okay, so next up, we are jumping over to Nuke in Film. Mike Maloney, compositing supervisor at Digital Domain, is here to share the work they did on Iron Man 3 with I'm going to get the barrel monkeys.
Bex, hello.
Hello.
We've got so much to share. I'll come over and touch
Okay.
me. So I just want to... Oh, hang on. I can't operate a computer and a microphone at the same time, it seems. Just wanted to say another shout out to people because we've got more than 900 people online.
Wow.
Woohoo!
Wow.
Pretty awesome. So hello, personal hello from me to Eddie Horn in Scotland, because that's my home country, and it's very stormy up there just now. Got people online from all over the place. I'm going to say Hungary, Australia, Italy, Sweden, Mexico, Czech Republic, Israel, Argentina, Turkey, Thailand, Portugal, Canada, Switzerland, India, Russia, and the United States, and obviously here in the UK as well. We've got a bit of a shout out to the Foundry gang that are actually in the office because we couldn't fit them all in here. So hello to them. And I know some people are watching from other offices around the place as well in groups, which is nice. Hang on. I look, have more countries: Denmark, Israel, Colombia, Armenia, Nigeria. Everyone's really excited, which is brilliant. Someone thinks that the pixel analyzer is bringing a tear to their eye.
Thanks, Dave. That's beautiful.
They're loving the QuickTime color handling. Stephan started a new trend of ghetto pass, hashtag ghetto pass, and another hashtag meat and potatoes seems to be trending. What else do we have? A few people suggesting that if Russell ever gives up compositing, stand-up is an option. Color tools looking great. Match grade looks amazing. Lots and lots of people enjoying the presentation. So thank you very much. Keep it coming.
Oh, thanks, Lucy.
Oh, in Alaska. Sorry. Hello, Alaska.
Alaska. Wow.
I'm sure it's even colder there than it is here.
I'm sure. And also for the people who God knows, you must be, I was going to say, in your pajamas. Let's just say that. You're in your pajamas. Hello. So next up, Mike Maloney, as I said, birthplace of Nuke, Digital Domain. I'm going to fling it over to Mike. So over to you, my darling.
Hi, my name's Michael Maloney. I'm a compositing supervisor at Digital Domain. I've been with DD since 1999. I've been using Nuke since version 2.0, so a lot has changed since then. Certain films I've worked on include Day After Tomorrow, iRobot, Pirates 3, and the film I'm here to talk about today, Iron Man 3. DD did several sequences for Iron Man 3. However, from a compositing standpoint, for us, the most challenging sequence was the Barrel of Monkeys sequence.
How many in the air?
13, sir.
How many can I carry?
4, sir.
Slow down, slow down. Relax. What's your name? Heather? Listen to me. See that guy? I'm gonna swing by. Are you just gonna grab him? You got it? I'll electrify your arm. You won't be able to open your hand. We can do this, Heather. Easy. See? 11 more to go. Remember that game called Barrel of Monkeys? That's what we're gonna do.
18,000 feet.
Come on, people, everybody grab your monkey. Nice.
10,000 feet. 6,000 feet.
Come on, people. Come on, come on, come on. Yeah!
1,000 feet. 400 feet. 200 feet, sir.
It's a chunky monkey. Let's get him. Hello. Nice work, guys. Excellent. Good team effort all around. Go us. All right, Jarvis, but it's only half done. We still gotta get... That came out of nowhere.
So just to give you guys a sequence overview for our post schedule, our first turnover of the sequence was in October of 2012. When we first got the sequence, it had 102 visual effects shots, although by the end, only 74 made it into the final edit. We had a team of about 20 new compositors. The last shot delivered was in March of 2013. However, the last major editorial change was just a few weeks before in February of 2013. When I first was signed on to this sequence, I was told that most of it was shot practically with the Red Bull skydiving team. And then along with that, they tried to sell me on the idea that there would be very little visual effects in the sequence. However, however, when we got the sequence, we found a lot of continuity issues. Basically, the sequence takes place a little over 2 minutes from 30,000 feet to sea level. However, the shoot reality was actually 44 skydives over 8 days. When we got the edit, it was all centered around the performance of the divers, and that all worked really well, but it wasn't, and it didn't work relative to the altitude at which they were, so we had to remap the altitude throughout the sequence. In addition, the location, they shot this in North Carolina, and we needed to look like Florida. And then another challenge that we faced was the sequence was cut between two different cameras, the Red Epic and Arri Alexa. So I won't re-show the whole sequence again, but this just kind of shows you kind of before and after the original footage that we got, and then the final composite, showing all the dramatic amount of changes we had to do for the sequence. Another big thing that we were faced with is when Marvel reviewed it, they said, "Oh, this is great, it's real, but it looks like a skydiving demo. And it doesn't feel like anybody's actually saving these divers. They're all just kind of falling with them." So once we heard that, we got the directive to, whereas before we thought, oh, we'll just cover up the stunt double pajama guy, but now we actually have to change his animation, and then as a result, in many cases, change the performance of the divers as well. So all those things combined really turned this into a extremely challenging sequence. So all the skydive stuff at the top, that's all shot with the Red Epic, and then as they get down to the bottom, to the sea level, that's all with the Arri Alexa. And those poor stunt people at water, okay. All right, so even though the feature film production isn't necessarily as fast a turnaround as television and commercials, we are finding that our schedules are getting compressed more and more as well. This sequence in particular, we knew editorial changes were going to happen up to the last minute, and we really needed to be very flexible and efficient, and that's why we made Nuke really the foundation. I mean, DD has used Nuke as its foundation, and I'm really happy to say it still continues to do so, very much so. So we really wanted compositing to be very flexible and very an integral part of kind of developing the sequence. So what I mean by that is we drove all the environments and layout. That was all done within Nuke. All the Air Force One debris, after the Air Force One explodes, all the debris streamers, that was also a card-based system in Nuke. The thrusters, the hand and feet thrusters on the Mark 42, that's the Iron Man suit, that was also done with a Nuke card setup. Not every shot, but the large majority of them were actually used with a 2D setup. And lastly, we've done this on several shows, our HDR grading and light kit alignments, all done in Nuke. We work with the Look Dev lighting artists early on in the show so that our color pipeline's in sync with Look Dev, and so then out of the box, our lighting renders really integrate well into the scene. So Barrel Monkeys is kind of broken up into 3 segments. Inside the Air Force One, before they get ejected out, the skydiving part, and then the splashdown at the end. So for the first segment, compositing Iron Man, we didn't have to rebuild the inside of the Air Force One for every shot. However, we did have a setup, so it was projected in Nuke. And then in addition, we built our whole light kit and HDR pipeline to work within that scene. So really, in these cases, a lot of times, the look dev, what came out of lighting, really kind of fit into the scene. However, that being said, compositors love to have control, and we want to have give them support of maximum AOV, so they have all this control over the final composite. Comping Mark 42 was not our biggest challenge with the sequence. It was more important for us to make things as flexible and efficient as possible. So we kind of had 2 setups as publishes from our lighting department, kind of a hero setup that had all the control, all these AOVs in it, and then a stripped down one. We thought it was a good idea at the time. However, what we found is it seemed like we always made the wrong choice. The minute we stripped down all the AOVs, the compositors wanted more control. And then when we gave them the full setup, their scripts were slow. So what we found is, and kind of give an example of a hero one, this is a lighting element here, and then a sample of AOVs. With EXR 2.0 and Nuke 8, I'm really happy that we don't have to make that compromise anymore, that we can do that full publish, give the compositors all that control, but still keep our scripts light and efficient. So that's a really big bonus for us. I really want to get into more of the skydiving part. That was by far our most challenging part of Barrel of Monkeys. From Marvel to the client VFX soup to DD VFX soup, everybody, the main directive for this was keeping it as photoreal as possible. Marvel went through the trouble of shooting it practically because they didn't want it to feel like a CG scene. And Christopher Townsend, that was his main directive. Eric Nash, DD's internal VFX supervisor, he's always into keeping things photoreal. He comes from a camera guy, and he's actually an experienced skydiver himself with several jumps under his belt. This is a photo of him on one of his jumps. So he knew firsthand what this should feel like, and he didn't let us cut any corners. So when we first got the sequence, and actually every time we got a new edit, Eric Nash would make this chart for us. Basically, this is mapping out the timeline of the sequence for about 2 minutes, and then basically taking each shot and then mapping out what altitude we should be at that time. So we built our Nuke setup in proper world space and mapped everything out based on this chart. And why I'd mentioned all the editorial changes last minute, whenever we got a new edit, we went back and we remapped this. So this is just kind of showing at our blocking stage in Nuke, basically the environments, Justin Vanderlick and the comp team would go in and we would map this whole sequence out. Compositors could keep their environment stuff live in the script. Sometimes they did when they needed to. We also had a system where we basically rendered out AOVs similar to what the lighting department would do, giving us control that way as well. So we kind of get different layers, adding in atmosphere, of course, breaking up to the water, adding photographic elements, adding shadows and clouds. Our cloud-based system was also done in Nuke. We had all the clouds on cards and some simple geometry that they could fly through and we could move interactively. We also had a level of detail system so that everything mapped at higher altitudes was a card-based system. And as we got to lower altitudes, we projected things onto simple geometry. And then, of course, compositing the Air Force One, adding the effects. And then just quickly here to kind of show you the original shot. and then the final composite. For this particular shot as well, we also changed the focal length. We actually mapped this properly with the lens that it was shot. This was kind of at their highest altitude, and it just didn't feel that scary or threatening. So we actually changed the focal length to give a more vast view of the environment. And then based on that as well, we actually remapped the trajectory of Heather, that's the stunt girl, falling out as well to make it proper to the lens, which was the only real thing left in the scene. So another big part that I had mentioned earlier, we developed a system so that we could do the hand thrusters interactively in Nuke. This originally set up as a look dev exercise. We weren't really actually planning on using this in shots, but we knew we could quickly get a look bought off on. Michael Ralla, our compositor, built the system for us. So this is just a card-based system, and when we saw these tests, we found out like, wow, the card-based system works really, really well, and we can kind of quickly get different looks and feels for this. In these examples, we used Nuke point lights for interactive lighting, although when we got the lighting passes, we used XYZ mats for that. What we did use for holdouts was a limbic. So we had kind of a beta version of our limbic reader at the time, and we really wanted to use a limbic. It was our first show at DD to implement that. But again, it wasn't very fast. So we had a special publish limbic cache, geo-publish made for us, so we could actually work with this within Nuke. Again, big improvement in Nuke 8 is the improved limbic support. It's much, much faster. Really looking forward to using that on future shows, and hopefully won't have to make this kind of a compromise or as much of a compromise in the future. In addition, one thing I want to mention is because the holdouts didn't line up perfectly because we're using a proxy Limbic cache, having the edit geo would have been a huge lifesaver, just being able to select those vertices, quickly make that adjustments where the holdouts weren't perfect, and go on from there. And then I'll just kind of quickly show you the setup live in Nuke. Again, it worked really, really well. One thing that we found with the sequence is, again, constant editorial changes and a lot of major animation changes. Being able to adjust the timing of these things without having to go back to effects was a huge time saver. So with this, we could change the scale, obviously. We could change the speed. We could change the look interactively within the compositing setup, adding sparks, additional sparks when needed for braking. Whenever we'd get an animation version and take of knowing when he's supposed to turn the thrusters on and off, we could quickly turn that around and set it up. Again, really, really handy time saver. So, and then this is a final shot that was used with the thruster setup. So, like I said, we for some hero shots, we actually did use Houdini-based. We had a full effects set of renders as well, but we found, again, for a good, well more than half of the shots, we could use this card setup, and it worked perfectly. And then, again, this is another example, the raining debris. That was all mapped out. We had a sequence of cards, and then we could block out throughout the sequence where those thrusters, the streaming debris would be, and that was all a card-based system in Nuke. So another big challenge with the skydive sequence was our color and plate pipeline. I got to give kudos to Marvel at the beginning of the show. They actually did a great job setting up the color pipeline, which is something, in my experience, doesn't happen too often. But they did an excellent job basically delivering us CDLs. This was our first show at DD to implement OpenColor I/O with our system and to use a per-shot LUT workflow. And the main camera that it was based on was the Arri Alexa. And for all that stuff, it worked perfectly. The thing is, with the skydiving sequence, they shot that with the Red Epic, so it was kind of outside of their kind of main pipeline. So there's some key differences between these two cameras. One big one is the image resolution, and that was another reason why they chose to use the Red Epic, is to have the 5K plates. Along with that, because they knew that everything was shot with the camera on a guy's helmet, that we knew they were going to have to art direct and manipulate these plates pretty heavily. So we do this at DD at the beginning of every show, but we definitely spent a lot of time researching it with the Red Epic as we go through all the different filters and set that up as a default for the show, trying to find the best compromise between image sharpness and then minimizing those artifacts, which is usually done with a combination of color space transforms and sharpening tools. So the new filters within Nuke 8 are becoming my new favorites, and they're working out great. It's a great advantage. So image resolution, its main difference, aspect ratio, again, the way we had to format the plates are differently than the Alexa, and color space. So the Alexa footage is all Alexa log CV3. Red Epic is red log film. As I said, the CDL workflow worked perfectly. It broke because of the color space differences for the Red Epic. We did find a workaround, and we got it working through one of those crazy diagrams that you discussed earlier. But having match grade would have been much, much better. So really look forward to using that on next shows. So this is just kind of an example of kind of the extremes that we would take manipulating plates. This was the original plate, and then minus just the nasty sky replacement that we had to do. And this is another example where Marvel saw it and they said, yeah, it looks cool, but it doesn't really feel like, it just doesn't feel like anybody's saving anybody. So in this particular example, the person's screen left, they actually had to have us retime and remove him coming at camera. In addition, they wanted more force and feeling like the Mark 42 is actually pushing these divers closer to him, so he's actually pushing to connect all of them together. So as a result, we go in, basically we didn't have content for Heather, that's a stunt double to the left of Iron Man. She had to be recreated for the majority of the shot. And again, all these things, I know talking about filters isn't very exciting, but for feature films, when you're doing this much manipulation of the plate and when outputting things for large format cinemas, maintaining that sharpness is critical. And so those new filters are a great advantage for us. So the last section is what we call the splashdown sequence, and the main challenge with that one is making it look like Miami. Well, we also did stuff like replacing environments and all that, but actually, in addition to just making it look Miami, another big challenge was just the nasty wire removal in the sequence. Actually, before we were awarded the sequence, where we didn't quite know what sequences we were going to be working on, there were some leaked images put out on like Ain't News and other kind of Den of Geek type fan sites, and then these images came out, and I remember talking to my coworkers going, oh, the poor suckers that actually have to do this work, I can't believe it. And then karma has it was us. So so just kind of show you, this was an original shot. Again, those poor divers going into that water. That water was really nasty, so it didn't look very much like Miami. So we had to color correct that. One big thing, the improved color tools in Nuke 8 would have come in really handy for all these shots, color correcting the water, especially the mix luminance option. That would have come in really handy for this case. We also replaced the bridge back there. That was end up being a reprojection Nuke setup as well. And then here's show you the final composite. So again, bridge redone in Nuke, and we used the Nuke thruster setup for this particular shot as well. The last shot in the sequence we worked on, quite fittingly, was also the last shot out the door at Digital Domain. Called it the truck shot. This one was extremely challenging for us, mainly because they actually shot the truck practically, and we didn't have time. By the time we got to finishing the movie, we didn't have time to actually do a full CG truck. So, but getting the animation right, time with the truck ended up to be really challenging. So as a compromise, we ended up retiming and reprojecting the truck in Nuke, and then also the bridge itself is a Nuke reprojection setup. So just kind of to wrap things up, you know, the thing about with features is, even though it is a little bit slower than maybe some of the other disciplines, we are finding we have to come faster and faster and faster and be able to make iterations as quickly as possible. And having Nuke as that foundation and the new tools in Nuke 8 that give you improved image quality, but then also really fast, quick iterations, those performance hits are critical. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, I am going to get our lovely panel together. We've got Hugo Guerra and Paul Simpson joining the guest speakers. So, gentlemen, can you just position yourself in the light? And while that's happening, we're going to bounce over to Lucy because the activity's just been going mental up there. So, Lucy?
Hello again, everybody. So again, thanks to everyone who's tuning in. Apparently people are watching it on iPhones, which is pretty awesome. And people are complimenting the streaming, although I know some people are having problems, but I think that's just individual bandwidth. So it will be available online afterwards, so don't panic. Some more countries to mention: Finland, Ecuador, Slovakia, Holland, Bolivia, Greece, and Malaysia, where it's 4:30 in the morning. So good morning, and thank you for getting up for us. Everyone's really excited. Lots of compliments about our guest speakers, so big up for them. What else do I have? I want to say hello to Justin Vanderleck, who got mentioned in that last presentation, who was our first ever guest presenter on a booth at the Foundry. Hi, Justin. Okay, what else? Hang on.
Do we have any hot, trending questions, Lucy?
So we've got lots of questions. So I can either start you off with a question, or do you want to take a question from the floor first?
Let's start from the virtual world, and then we
Okay.
can bounce to the floor.
Hang on, scrolling. Okay. So someone, in fact, a couple of people have been asking for the short form people, is anyone using Nuke and Hero in client attend situations?
Yeah. Yeah. All the time.
Care to elaborate?
Hugo.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, do it. Hello. Yeah,
Oh,
we're using
cool.
it. Is this working now?
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, we use it a lot now. We're pumping it out in SDI onto the monitor, and we're using it for some weird special projects with sort of for Land Rover for reprojection. So we're finding Hero is amazing. We use it for everything. We plugged it into our database. Clients, I mean, most of them, they don't really know what they're looking at. I mean, we've got a flame, but, they don't care whether it's a flame or a Hero. I mean, so we use it a lot, and we think it's great.
And Hugo, I know, yeah.
Yeah,
Ollie, go
for the last 2 years, we've been using Hero and Nuke together, and we even have a client suite now in the mill as well, which is Suite 9. And we've been having full client sessions, all day long, like 8-hour sessions, 9-hour sessions, 10-hour sessions, sometimes longer. And the same setup, really. We have a black magic out, SDI out into the plasma. The clients don't even notice if it's a smoke, a flame, or a Nuke or Hero. It doesn't really matter. It can all play back anyway. And now that Nuke 8 finally in Linux has an SDI out as well, which is hooray! It's so funny because in 2006 I requested for that feature, and I finally got it. I'm really happy. Yeah. So yeah,
Never forget anything, Hugo.
yeah, I know. I actually went and digged up this email, and it's so funny. It's 2006, but yeah, yeah. But I think you also. You have a micro. Sorry. It's so much better with a microphone because you feel like a rock star.
You look like a rock star.
You're doing a Madonna thing. It's
I am.
Like a boy band thing.
I'll throw some shapes in a minute. You wait. I'm a bit of an idiot. I mean, I started using Hero in alpha on a job.
Oh yeah. That was stupid.
I know, but tell you what, we turned around 60 commercials, 20 languages, easier than any job we've ever done. We use it for all of our ingest. We use it for our client-attended sessions. We've got, we've got a suite. We've got 2 editorial guys who are full-time Hero ops. That's now a job at Framestore. Same in New York and LA. And a lot. To be honest, the client-attended stuff we do use. We don't do a lot of client-attended sessions like operating. We try and kind of get people in. Being that client sessions don't seem to earn as much money in some ways anymore, we're just kind of like, hey, come and look at it. Okay, leave. Hero is a really good turnaround for that. We can show them everything in EXR. It gives us really quick update. Getting stuff to edit is no longer like a laborious process, and we tie it in with Shotgun quite heavily. So when you're querying for updating files, I always say the really strange thing is when you've got file system based stuff, like you're going, I'm going to version up now. The further into a job you get, the more files you've got on disk, the slower it gets, the more angry you get, closer to delivery. So it's everything gets worse towards the end. It's like a race to the bottom. So if you tie it in with Shotgun, you get the same repeated. It maybe takes a little bit slower right at the beginning, but it's always that same speed querying Shotgun for versions. So it's really great for that kind of client-attended whip delivery turnaround stuff.
Cool. Any questions from our live audience? Okay.
Go on, be brave.
Might be a bit shy.
Are they shy?
I think they're shy.
They're not shy online.
Not shy. I was about to say online. What's going on over there?
Okay, so we've got the particle system is amazing. Is there any way to use Python in the particle system?
Good question. I don't know. How do you use Python in the particle system? I mean, you can access the geometry of points from Python. So I guess you could access the point cloud, the particles, and then do something with it. But I mean, yeah. I mean, you can access geometry with Python. So
yes.
you can access the point cloud. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
I don't know.
Does that answer your question?
So
does that answer your question, questioner? Paula?
We'll need to get them to come back onto the chat forum and tell us if that answered their question.
Okay. Yeah. Good, yeah.
Okay, so another question for Russell. Hang on, where are my things gone?
What's your problem?
Could you have used manual tracks to make specific points to use for the geometry? Can you use points in the point cloud as points for the geometry?
Say again?
Sorry. So this is, I guess, in reference to part of your presentation. Could you have used manual tracks to make specific points to use for the geometry? Can you use points in the point cloud as points for the geometry? That felt like a tongue twister.
That's some,
it looks like I've
some kind of
confused
weird
you.
data loop in my head. I don't really know. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Can you answer this one? Was it the Weldon Down Museum?
Yeah, man.
Hey.
It's down the road. I went there when I was a kid. I think the whole kind of points geometry question, I'm a bit confused by it. I mean, I think one of the things that would be really great is if you can solve the user tracks and then you can start snapping as you model to them. I know that's not a feature now, but I know that one of the things that the guys are keen to do is when you're doing the image modeling process to be able to sort of not just, on creation of a piece of geometry, snap it across the average of a bunch of selected points, but to be able to basically kind of almost draw your vertices out and draw your topology out by using your point cloud, to drive that. So in theory, you could use manual tracks to do that. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but it kind of sounds related.
It sounds awesome.
You can, just real quick, you can also, you can section out, you can take a high density point cloud and you can turn it into different layers, and you can take those layers and highlight them and turn it into geo, so you can very quickly turn a point cloud into geometry. It's not quite as clean and optimal as using like the model builder, but it works and it can be used.
Yeah, it's really, the point cloud generator, if you want to get a really quick, dirty result fast to start from, it's amazing. I think the interesting thing with the point cloud generator that I learned over the last few weeks, working with Jon. Where is Jon? Is he in here? Jon Stark?
Yes, he is.
Legend, man. So on me and Jon on Skype going, it don't work, help. And him going, it does work, you're an idiot. It didn't work.
Jon would never say that.
No, but
You wouldn't know.
the thing that's... What are we talking about, man? Oh, yeah. No, the thing that's really interesting is like with the still solver is actually pretty clever, and I did some tests with it where like if you take a bunch of overlapping images, as long as you have enough parallax and enough overlap, you actually, it doesn't matter what order they're in, the still solver does quite a good job of solving them. But the point cloud generator does not work the same way. You need to have a series of images in a row that overlap for it to do that. And as soon as it gets past a point, say for example you have an image that overlaps and another one that overlaps and then it jumps to here, that jump to that fourth image is actually going to sort of basically throw away a lot of the cool points that you had for those first three. So if you do start using the still solver and letting it kind of, sort through a varied range of stills, you actually still want to make sure you have stuff in a row when you do your point cloud solve. And you can actually just pick like 3, point cloud generate that, pick another 3, point cloud generate that, and it will just pretend, it will kind of iteratively build up the mesh. So you're not like stuck with what you've got. You can work through it. And that's something that I hadn't really played around with that much. I just kind of press buttons and go, it didn't work very well.
Any more?
Yeah, I have lots, but there's a hand. Look.
Oh, there's a hand.
Yes, local man.
I'll get the hand.
I hope it's an easy one.
Yeah, no pressure.
Hi, Nick Shaw with a question about Blink script, which I really like, by the way. Apologies to NVIDIA as a sponsor, but I'm just wondering whether it will always be NVIDIA only, because it's based on OpenCL, isn't it? So
yeah, so in Nuke it's NVIDIA OpenCL, but yeah, we're looking into that in the future. So something we've been working on in-house for quite a while to actually run everything on OpenCL. That could be something we could do in the future, but currently we're CUDA based. It seemed more robust right now.
Thank you. But yeah, the protecting the kernel in Blink script. I think it's really useful for developing tools, but not opening up what's going on
Yeah,
inside.
so that's exactly what it is. So if you guys remember, there's a little checkbox saying protect kernel when you press that publish button. So what that means is the Blink script source code gets encrypted inside the gizmo. So if anyone just opens it up, all your lovely secrets that you've got in-house that you're shipping externally get hidden, and nobody can see that. So once you've published it, you've encrypted it, there's no way to get it back. So you need to keep your original if you want to keep developing it.
That couldn't be more like a paintball game. Protect the kernel.
Protect the kernel. Are you the kernel?
No. Definitely not.
Any more?
Colonel Russ at Framestore.
Oh, okay. Now let me. Oh. Sorry.
Hello, great presentations, everyone. Very well done. I think the new QuickTime stuff in there is great, but a quick question about encoding QuickTimes. Do you think there will ever be ProRes encoding support on Linux or Windows via FFmpeg?
It's something that may happen in the future, but it's something that we have to discuss with Apple, obviously, because they own the codec, and they obviously want it on their Mac hardware and Linux hardware. It's something that's we'd have to negotiate with them. So I can't promise anything. Yeah, I mean FFmpeg is around, but that's not something that would ever be a supported thing to have. ProRes support on Linux via FFmpeg from us. Something that maybe you could do externally. Don't talk to us about it.
Yeah.
But like if you want to recompile FFmpeg yourself, it's possible, but it's not something. Does anyone ever do that?
Yeah.
Ah, there you go.
You're admitting that.
Yeah, we have it working. Yeah. Sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
It works for 422, but you can't encode 444.
Yeah, exactly. That's a limitation at the moment. It's the 444, but maybe someday. The house was quiet.
Lucy.
I've got lots more questions. So there's a lot of love for the import Nuke functionality. Someone's asking, is there any integration with 3ds Max? They're loving it into Maya, but is there going to be anything for 3ds Max?
I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. It depends on what Python version is being used in 3ds Max. I'm not familiar with it exactly. Does anyone in the room know what Python version it uses? Zillions of hands go up to those at home, so nobody knows. So yeah, if it's on Python 2.7, then it would work. Otherwise, it won't work. So basically, it's 2.7. Any Python 2.7 will work.
I'm going to just say a quick hello to my colleagues in Redwood City. Brad People are in the gang. Hi. They've been giving us a shout out. They're having fun over there watching this. Can you now attach or link Nuke Geo to imported animated Geo? Blank faces.
You can do that currently. You could do that in older versions as well. But it's not something that's built in. It's something you would have to write a little Python script to do. And I've seen people do it at other facilities where they basically have a little Python script that finds all the locations of the geometry and then attaches stuff and burns in the locations. You can even do it with an expression, but I wouldn't recommend it because it will be slow. Have you used that at DD? Or something similar?
Yeah, we've had it custom made basically for locators onto Geo. That's basically how we use kind of our setups for all the locators for the thrusters and stuff, kind of identifying modifiers based on that. So.
Okay, so there you go.
I'm being told that apparently there's a Python script on Nukepedia to do that very thing.
Oh, well, there you go.
So anyone who doesn't actually know what Nukepedia is, you should have a look. There's loads of free scripts and gizmos there. It's free to join. There's about 14,500 Nuke artists on there sharing scripts and gizmos.
And I'm really excited about Nuke 8, what's going to happen on Nukepedia too with the Blink script node, because people are going to come up with some wicked stuff. And like in the past, if somebody came up with a plugin that was really kind of hardcore, then the developer has to compile it and ship all the different versions and put them up on Nukepedia, and when there's a new version of Nuke, recompile it and all this stuff. So there's a lot of overhead for people to compile plugins. With the Blink script, it's just text. Once it's done, it's done. You upload it, it's a text file. It'll work in all versions of Nuke, no compilers, all platforms, job done. So I think it's going to be exciting to see what people come up with.
Yeah, man.
What's that?
If you protect the kernel, no one knows.
Well, nobody can look inside, but they can. It's still text. It's all messed up text.
Get your kernel out.
Get your kernel.
Now, boys.
Protect your kernel.
One more, Lucy.
Well, this one's a fun one. Will Pong for Nuke ever be part of Nuke?
Will Pong for Nuke?
Why not? I mean, just
Yeah. It's on, I think Pong for Nuke is on Wikipedia, isn't it?
There is, yeah.
Yeah. Has anyone seen that before?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
There's some other
So
crappy
Google
program that
Pong
doesn't
for,
even it.
for Nuke, and it's basically the node graph, and you can just. It's Breakout, actually, not Pong.
No, that's
I'm
some
thinking
other-
Breakout for Nuke, where there's all the Nuke nodes, and
Right.
it smashes
Yeah.
the nodes. and they
Because,
sort of
because we
explode.
have a lot of time to do that,
Right.
isn't
Yes.
it? Exactly. We
There's
have plenty of time to go and play Pong.
Well, there's another crappy compositing program that spent a lot of time putting a breakout type game into their code rather than actually making tools.
if you want to have someone make that, we've got a wicked intern who came and he said, and I said, what do you want your project to be? And he went, can I make asteroids or something for Pong? Well, no, for Nuke, the one where you shoot up. What's that? Space Invaders.
Space Invaders.
Turn around like a week later. It's pretty good.
You getting to do Roto or anything like that?
Oh yeah, afterwards.
And then Roto in the evening. During the day, they make
The serious hours is where the Space Invaders action goes.
You could use Blink script
Sounds
for
like
that.
fun.
We could use Blink
You could use Blink script. to
We
do
could
it
get
now.
real time.
You can do it in 3D.
400 frames per second.
Right.
That's a
Okay,
weird
well, I mean, I could go on, but
We
we're up
could.
against it for time.
We
aren't we, guys?
totally are.
Russell
Every-
presenters
in-
look like they need a beer.
Yeah, in general, though, the feedback's really positive. So thanks so much to everyone who's joined us online. It's been really fun. We've all had a great time here chatting to you and the team up here. And we'll continue to try and answer some of your questions. I'm very impressed with the times of day that some of you have got up to log into this. I'm also slightly worried.
Also, Lucy.
We've got some
We've
exciting
got
news, haven't we?
a competition winner.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you
So
win?
what have they won? They've only just won an NVIDIA
Wonder.
graphics card,
Oh,
a Dell
wow.
monitor,
Wow.
a Nuke X, and a Hero. What a prize!
That is a pretty
Like-
amazing prize.
I'll take one of those.
So, big prize.
Wow. You
So
could play-
Lucy,
No.
you could play some really
So I don't have a drum roll, so I'll just pretend. But the winner is
Russell.
Mark Norrie from Canada.
oh,
So congratulations, Mark.
congratulations, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Best man won.
Maybe next time.
We'll get your
So run us
details
up,
from
guys.
you. Hello, boys.
Hi.
So what?
Sorry.
So we were
Am I gonna
having
have to tell you
like
off, John?
A moment.
I'm going to get you after the show.
Okay.
Can't
You look
believe
wonderful.
that picture. Okay, so we also have another announcement, don't we, John?
Do we?
We do.
Is it official?
I believe so.
Oh wow. It's amazing.
John
and Bex
come
are
on, I've just-
engaged.
All right, so yeah, okay, it's very exciting to announce that during this kind of presentation on Nuke that we've been talking about all the new features and everything, very exciting news, it's actually gone live. So Nuke 8 has been released during this very forum. And in addition to Nuke 8, remember I talked about Hero, and we've talked a little bit about Hero. Hero 1.8 is also released on the website. So both of those guys are out now, ready for you to get. Woo, big excitement from Jack Binks in the front row. So anyone on maintenance can obviously download that right now and start using it straight away. And anyone who hasn't got it yet, go and get a trial and start
totally.
playing with it.
Also.
Oh, look.
So
Ah,
we've
that's
got
even
some
more
secret
exciting.
information about what's going to be happening on Monday. It's not really a secret now. It's up there. It's out there. We are running a promo, an upgrade to Nuke X for just, £1,000. It's all up there on the screen. If you already own, thank you, boys. Yeah, probably should have rehearsed that slide. So, sorry about that. But yeah, we're running this on Monday. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Keep yourself ready for that one.
Sorry, Bex, just one thing on that. So,
Yeah, darling.
So this is for current customers. People who own Nuke already, they can upgrade to Nuke X. People who own Nuke or Nuke X can add a hero for a bargain of £2,000, which is pretty amazing. Also today, the lovely Paul who's up the front, we've just done a case study with him on some of his recent work on music promo using Nuke and Hero. So that's live on the website now if you want to have a read and see what Nuke and Hero can do for you. That's the end of my sales pitch.
Thank you for saving me. So we've just got some real special thank yous now. So thank you so much to our guest speakers, Framestore, Encore Hollywood, Digital Domain, The Mill, Realise Studios. Thank you for letting your busy artists come and join us for tonight. We really, really appreciate it. Our sponsors, Dell and NVIDIA, thank you so much. We couldn't have done this without you. Thank you. Also, production, our production team, Ape Events, Flingbrook, Vue Cinemas, Laura for doing the girls' makeup and the boys' makeup, even though they don't look like they're wearing makeup. Gonna get revenge on Jon Wadelton. Also, Foundry sysadmins, the creative specialists, our live chat team. Oh my God, a round of applause for the guys at the back. It's just been frantic up there. Also, the Nuke team. Oh my God, guys, like seriously. Those boys have been working so hard, and gals.
A lot of the Nuke team developers actually in the room here as well to see this. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a beer.
You're awesome.
Not too many, though, because there's a lot of work to do.
Bex, before you've got something to show people before you finish. Remember?
Oh, yes, I do. Blimey. Getting so carried away. Okay, so we have some other messages from people in the industry who just want to share how they feel about Nuke 8. So, Jordan, can we roll the VT?
I'm always blown away by what the Foundry brings to their Nuke products, and especially Nuke 8.
I'm very excited about it. I can't wait to get it in the building.
I feel that Nuke 8's kind of got some real kind of meat and potatoes in it, if you know what I mean.
Color's very important, and the fact that they added the color wheels right within the color correction tools is great. It gives you more flexibility.
You're in and out of that tool so frequently, and that tiny amount of time that you spend just having to close that window going away makes a huge difference.
Like really sexifying those knob controls and those interfaces, it just increases their ability to get the software to do what it is that they're visualizing in the first place.
So finally have scopes into Nuke, parade and waveforms and vector scope. That was sorely missed.
Another huge one is the changes they made to the match grade tool. In a commercial workflow, a lot of times you're trying to match to color correction that they did, and the match grade helps you get there quicker.
I was excited to see that in context help be a native part of Nuke. It shows that the Foundry is thinking more about user experience.
We actually teach our 3D artists compositing. We teach designers compositing. The Nuke 8 update makes that so much easier for someone to get into it.
Very excited to see the improvements to the dope sheet in Nuke 8. I use the dope sheet a lot as is, so any improvement to it is very exciting.
You can now just take all of your keyframes, stretch them out or squeeze them, and then you're done.
Just having that fluidity of being able to mess about with those time warps and still actually see where everything's going to be is great.
The new import Nuke functionality, you can sort of, hey, I just need to write out a thumbnail using Nuke without having to go through the entire process of starting up Nuke and taking a lot of time.
It will allow us to take existing tools and be able to bootstrap them almost immediately.
Huge thing for me with Nuke 8 that I'm incredibly excited about, we all are as a facility, is the monitor output. For us in commercials, it's something that we've been kind of hoping for a really long period of time. Now we can just hook it straight through and we can have an interactive comp session with a client in Nuke. It's huge, it's a game changer for us.
I'm personally a huge fan of the model builder tool. It's a great idea, just the fact that you can kind of build out an environment based on tangents and perspectives.
The edit geonode in particular, the ability to take some quick scan that somebody did on set and use that in compositing to project on is very important.
We've always been a fan of the camera tracking tools, and being able to generate camera data off of reference photography is huge to us, because a lot of times that's all we have from set.
The fact you can take other pictures from other angle and essentially building a 3D model with just pictures, it's incredible.
I think the text tool will be really powerful for our design department, and I see that they will have quite a large use of it.
We're excited about the inclusion of the XR2, as well as being able to generate deep data from the scanline renders.
It smooths out that path to getting deep data and deep compositing into our facility.
A lot of packages, you kind of feel they're doing maintenance releases as their major updates, and Nuke is always bringing what would be considered high-end research kind of tools as a new function for artists to work with.
So finally, thank you so much to our audience for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Also, a thank you to all you guys watching around the world. What just happened there? Stephan Fleet. Oh, I've got to watch this back. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us wherever you are. Have a good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon. We'll see you soon, somewhere soon in the world, hopefully. Happy holidays. We'll see you soon. Thank you.